You've been sitting for an hour, and we are going to do an exercise. And I need you to be in your bodies for that. So not in your brain. So please stand up, just for 1 second. Stand up. Try to be COVID-proof while you stand up. And let's start with, don't touch your mouth and nose, but just, do this on your face. Be aware of your face. Then over your body. Touch your hips, stamp your feet, wiggle your hands and your arms, feel your feet on the ground. Get back on this floor in this castle. Yeah, are we feeling our bodies again? Good, sit down. They are still dancing, yeah. Jan and Stientje, you may sit down if you... Are you going, Stientje? Okay. Well, next time we'll do the exercise with you as well. Thank you. Bye-bye. So, just a small introduction. The Lab for Future Generations, where did it come from? I met the previous... first of all, there are several members and supporters of the Lab in the room. Just wave your hands. Yeah, great to have you here. I met the Hungarian Ombudsman for Future Generations, which was not Marcel Szabo, but Sándor Fültröp, his predecessor, in Hungary on the Rio +20 Sustainable Development Summit. This was 9 years ago, and I was stunned. I was there for human rights and children's rights and the environment, and I met this guy who was an ombudsman for future generations in his country. And he could watchdog the constitutional article for every Hungarian to live in a healthy and clean environment for present and future generations. And I came back to the Netherlands, and I was just a new member at World Connectors, and we had a review meeting. What did you bring from Rio? And I pitched this. I said there was an ombudsman for future generations. And then I remember Herman Wijfels looked around the room. He said, that sounds kind of cool. And who's in it for that? And several hands popped up. Yeah, we would like to work on that. So we started a working group, analyzed everything, and within 2 weeks I had a draft new law to get an additional ombudsman for future generations. Just add one to what is there. I forgot the political legitimacy. I forgot the Dutch system. I forgot that we never heard of something like that. So we started to talk. We started to plea. We started to lobby. And in the end, it didn't really catch up. And then we thought, if society, or our political society, is not ready for it yet, why don't we start doing this? And the group grew bigger. Like I said, there are several in the room. Too many people to mention the whole Kern team and the Bron group, which are our core groups. And we said, how can we influence society? Well, then we need academic research. So we developed a tool, an academic tool, how you can research the impact on future generation and how that is different. So the neuropsychologist says, bullshit, you can't take into consideration the rights and needs of future generation because every decision you take is now. I need to drink now, I need a car now, I need that dress now, and I'm going to buy it. But the ecologist says, no, we can pretty much calculate where we need to be or where we will be in 100 years. So if you take my scientific cap, I can do this. I can really take into consideration the needs of future generations. We also said, what if we start doing this? Because people at Springtij Festival told me, like I was just told to be the new minister for future generations, they said you need to be that ombudsman for future generations. So that's when I became the acting ombudsman for future generations. Then what does he do? Well, he rules. The ombudsman in Hungary rules on issues. So we developed the kwesties, the issues that we take on. And we've now already given rulings in 4 or 5 kwesties, so matters, which have impact. By which we see if we get and we deliver these messages, these kwesties, and we tweak it and we show what is the impact of future generations if we do this differently, it matters. And a part of that, and that is a bit of the magic of this exercise, is not just by leaving an empty chair, which Jan also knows very well, so giving a toekomststoel or an empty chair at every meeting, but we created the Toekomstraad, so the Future Council. So on any matter that we need to discuss on, like the future of the Wadden Sea, or circular farming on Texel, which is a case that we will rule on soon, or an inclusive basic schooling system. Any matter that we take, we do a future council. And you today are going to be members of that future council. And we are today going to envisage, like we do in any case or any matter, the best possible future, de mooiste mogelijke toekomst. Because what we see is, no matter what the audience is, so I've done this with politicians, I've done this at a Christian Democrat Congress, I've done this with farmers, Miranda has done this with farmers, but as soon as you focus on that extreme long term, and you can actually experience a bit of that, the daily chattering and debate around who is right and who is wrong leaves, and what comes in is at an identity level, really, that you wish to make this best possible future. So this is what we are going to do today. We're going to focus on climate change. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring you back, like the indigenous do, 7 generations back in time, back to today, 7 generations in the future. Then we look back on today, and then we see what is needed to change. A lot of words, but we're going to do this. So please, be with me. People at home or on the Zoom, if you don't want others to see your face while you do this, because you may look odd, although you just have been jumping around, so everybody has seen that as well. But just close your camera. And people here, if you close your eyes, nobody sees you, so there's no problem there as well. So please close your eyes. Put your feet on the ground, 2 feet on the ground, and really be here. If you want, you can put your hands on your heart. If it gets the energy out of your head into your body, into who you are right now. And breathe in. Breathe out. And keep your eyes closed, because it really will help during the exercise. Breathe in. Breathe out. You feel at ease as we are here today in this castle. And we breathe in. We breathe out. We feel as members of community, of society. And we breathe in and out. And slowly you imagine in your head or in your body, or you imagine in this room, behind you, you have your 2 parents. They are just there, right there, behind you. And some of you may have a negative experience with your parents. Then put an aunt or uncle or some other people there that represent your parents. But your parents are there, and they're supportive of who you are today and what you can do today. Then imagine behind your parents, there's your grandparents. Your grandparents, many of you will have known. For some of you, they will still be alive, and they're very happy to see you here in this room today. Behind your grandparents, you put your great-grandparents. They're already 8 of them. So you have your parents 2, your grandparents 4, your great-grandparents 8. Behind your great-great-parents, their parents 16. Behind your great-great-parents, their parents 32. An enormous group of ancestors who support you, who are very happy that you can live the life that you live today, that are connected with you in your DNA, in the diversity that they bring, in who you are today. Your story lives in you. Their story lives in you. And behind them, their parents, 64. And behind them, their parents, 128. By now, you have behind you 254 people. And all of them are connected with you. Your ancestors 7 generations ago. From your parents up until your great-great-great-great-grandparents. They're very diverse if you go back in time. But you are part of them, and they are part of you. You live in them, and they live in you. And whilst we are aware of their existence and the connection that is never gone, we travel back in time, while we are aware with them, to today. So you remain in your seat, but you're always aware that you have your ancestors with you, the shoulders on which you stand. And then you also ask the question, what ancestor will I be? Will I be a good ancestor? And slowly but surely you imagine in front of you your children. Some of you may have children, maybe 4 or 2 or 3, but imagine just 2 children in front of you. And if you don't have children or you won't get children, just imagine 2 young people in front of you. You're connected to them. They are the future generations. Some of them are alive today. Before them, you see 4 grandchildren. And with grandchildren, everything changes. I hear from people that become opa and oma or grandparents. There's a generation shift. You love to see and to be connected to your grandchildren, to be an ancestor for your grandchildren. And in front of them, you will see their children. That's 8. Before them, you will see 16 children. They also get 2 children. 32. They also get 2 children. 64, and the crowd gets bigger. In front of them, their children. 128 descendants. These are your great-great-great-great-grandchildren in the future. And they live in the year 2200. And you see them from now in the far distance. And you see this group of young people and children that you are connected to while you are aware of the ancestors still behind you. But now we travel in time. You walk past your children, past your grandchildren. You walk in the future. You walk through your generations in the future. And you end up with these 128 young children, your future generations, in the year 2200. And you stand there on the line with them. You look one of them in the eyes. And this is where the first magic starts. Look one of them in the eyes. What do you see? Who is that? A boy, a girl, a color, happiness, a person. And through the eyes of this person, you see the best possible future on climate change. So that would be no climate change. That would be living in a beautiful environment, in balance with nature. Society has fixed this. We live in a society which is balanced with nature, where climate change is not a threat, but the climate is a joy. It is safe, it is stable, and it's beautiful. And just be there for a while. What do you experience? It may be a sound, it may be a smell, a noise, a feeling, but also it can be a message or something you really see, or something that you see on technology or on nature. Experience this. Be there for a while, in the future, in 2200. And while you are there, you take this into your system. You've seen the best possible future on our climate. You've seen the best possible future of humanity living balanced with nature. And you take this with you. And slowly, you turn back while you are there in 2200, and you look back in time. You see us in the far distant today. We are here in Slot Loevestein, but you are looking at us from the future. And while you're looking back and you've seen this most beautiful future, you can also see what needs to change. What brought us there? So what changed so that we could be in this best future ever? What changed so that we have this beautiful future? And then you also look, while you slowly move back in time, walking past the track record of your future generations to today, you see where the changes were made and what changes you can make. What changes you can make for this most beautiful climate and living in balance with nature. And while you are walking from the 128 to the 64, to the 32, to the 16, to the 8, to the 4 grandchildren, to the 2 children, you are back today in the room. As you sit here, you are back in your chair in Slot Loevestein, and you remember what you've seen. You've seen the best possible future. You've experienced it. And you also know what needs to be changed. And slowly, you get back into your bodies. We get back into the room. You feel your feet. You feel your body. And maybe you need to yawn, maybe you don't. But you get back into your body. You shake a bit and you wake up. And we're back in the room. But you will never forget what you've seen, and you will never forget what you can do to create this best possible future. Now, is everybody back in the room? How was this? How was this, people? So, first question from me to you. How was this? Anyone that just wants to say anything on an experience or what happened? Just speak out loud. No one?
It was very joyful.
You were?
It was very joyful.
It was joyful. So I see joy. Did everybody get a joyful future? Yes? I see 2 young people that say yes, and this makes me very happy. We've done the exercise with young people. They're so stuck up with our modern day threats that they can't see the best possible future. So I'm happy. You don't? Yes?
We were also presented with our own mortality, because you never think about that we're probably going to be dead at that point.
There you go. So you can imagine a best possible future, but it's not part of your reality today. You actually think you will be dead by then. To repeat for the audience who haven't heard. Who had an experience going back in time? Feeling something from the ancestors? Something weird or new or maybe logical? Anyone wants to share? Yes?
Well, what we realized today, how
in some way we're also very fortunate. We have human rights, we are at peace, we can go to these inventions and speak what we are thinking. And probably my ancestors didn't have that throughout time.
So you feel your ancestors are a bit jealous of what you can do today, or at least.
I think they would be. For example, my grandma, it was always jealous of me, and for example, also my mother, that we could go to school, that we didn't have to go to, I forgot the name in Dutch, what it's called, just a handworks of school for women. That we can also enjoy an education, open a bank account.
So you are thankful as well to what future generations of women, for instance, have done for women now today, so that women have a more equal place in society. We're not there yet, but definitely it's better than it was. Yes, here, and then Roman, yeah?
Yeah, I think when I try to think back of my ancestors, I think they'd be proud of how far we have come in societies, because I think we often think as well about what we still need to do. But I think it's also important to reflect on how far we have actually come in society and in the developments we have made. And I think they would be supportive of where I am, and I think they'd be proud of what I would want to do for future generations, but also how far I've come so far.
Cool. Well, let's hope that our future generations can also be happy on how far we have come for them, right? Yeah. Roman, you also had a question on the exercise, not specific on future or ancestors.
Well, actually, it was more thinking about my journey from the future coming back, was that starting in that very positive future, as I walk backwards in time to the present, when I hit the 2060s, I hit a moment of terrible crisis, a world on fire, Hieronymus Bosch-style hell, and that we had to go through that world on fire, the world flooded, in order to get to the place where I saw my 7th generation descendants. And we couldn't get there unless we had experienced that crisis.
Wow, that's a big step in between, so to say, yeah. Yes, now we're slowly moving. Veronique, please, yeah?
Even though I have children, I felt myself challenged to see this, that it's normal to multiply into the future with the children. I know so many young adults who don't even think about that they want to have children. So I saw what was happening is sort of a decline to get to this beautiful future we would like to see.
Well, it wouldn't be bad for our planet if we would be with less in the year 2020, if we live like the way we live today, yeah. Back to the future. So now we really, we talked about the exercise. What did you experience? Who can share their best possible future? Did you see a person? Did you get a name? Did you smell something? Did you see something? I hear it was positive. Who wants to share anything on their best possible future? Here?
saw a very clean environment, indeed, like very peaceful and kind of strak, hoe zeg je dat? Like slick and clean and great, like you see a futuristic environment, but very quiet, and we had lots of space. And actually it was through the same sort of feeling of, oh, actually there has happened like major breakdowns before this was back to a balanced and peaceful place. Yeah.
Okay, there, and then these two.
Yeah, actually for me it all came back to simplicity. We sort of got rid of the consumerism and the idea that we need more and more and more. We just came back to simplicity. Everything was clean again.
Beautiful. That's the image that I would like to have. An easy world where it's simple, yes. First these, and then you, yeah.
In opposition to Gina, I also would like that, but I think I saw a world where it couldn't be fully stopped, so there had to be a lot of inventing to deal with the consequences and also inventions to deal with climate change. So while I think that would be the perfect solution to stop the pollution, I think there will also be a lot of inventions to protect the environment.
Thank you.
Yeah, I personally actually reflected also Gina's vision of turning back to nature and reconnecting with nature, and that nature becoming a bigger part of our everyday lives than it is now. But one of the biggest things that I saw was groups of people working together from all different places on the earth, and it really being globalized. So not people thinking of their own nationality and their own country and what's best for them, but them working together for what is best for humankind. That was something that I saw in a perfect future.
Amazing. This is something that comes back in almost every exercise that we do. It will be more diverse, more organic, and more easy, like I also heard, that it will just work in connection with the environment, right? Please, yeah. I do get a lot of ladies, gentlemen, to answer. So if there's any guy brave enough as well to share his vision of the most beautiful future, please, yeah.
No, I actually had a really hard time visualizing 2400s, I think it is. Because I kind of share Roman's idea of that I think the next 100 years are going to be very, very chaotic. And I just, maybe it's just my level of creativity, but I struggle to look beyond that and to picture if there's even something left afterwards, or if we indeed return to some holistic state where we're all one with nature, and I do hope that, but I realized during the exercise that I really struggle to look that far.
That's something that we see and we need to address as well, especially in topics that don't look like they are going in the right way, right? We need to address that it's really the best possible future that you see.
It could go all ways, I think. So yeah. I do really share the hope that we return to some...
Yeah. But that's the benefit of creating the best possible future, right? We're not saying that it will be the future that we will have, but it's the future that we would wish to have for our future generations. Yeah. Any of the guys, come on, who dares? No, you don't have to. Can be more. Yes.
Also, I mean, what I imagined was also a little bit what Gina was saying before. Basically, like there was more like collectivity and solidarity, not only in the way of you imagine your whole ancestral line, but also in the more horizontal way, so in between everybody else. And that's also something that I've been wondering about, because we speak a lot about individual human rights for future generations, and it's very much individual based. But I'm wondering sometimes, because if you speak about being in harmony with nature, or if you speak about collective action, or if you speak about feeling that responsibility or that care for future generations, is there not a need for like a collective feeling in general? So in my head, I've just very much imagined that this individual spirit that we very much uphold and appreciate and cherish, especially in Western societies, kind of became less important or less selfish in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I fully agree with this. And this is actually, what we try to is to take an indigenous principle and make an exercise of it. And I think what the indigenous people also teach us is that we are not just one human, right? Through the Ubuntu perspective, I think Doreen will tell you more about that if you are in her breakout session tomorrow on indigenous perspective. You are first part of a group and then an individual. And I think our enlightenment has gone way too far, and we need a little bit more of enlightenment, I sometimes call it. So from enlightenment to enlightenment, which will create more holistic societies. I see that as well. I see a microphone and I didn't see a hand, so please.
Yeah. I did.
Sorry.
I'm an engineer working for ASML. So we're working on high technologies, improving the world from that perspective. That's also what I saw. So a very high technological society there. I actually had the privilege to be in the car with Jan Terlouw for the last 1.5 hours. He was talking about his vision of also enabling Africa, where there will be high temperatures and potential for like getting the energy out of the sun, basically, and also having this globalized world where we share, but also have the African continent to also have the benefits of the energy transition that we need to go through.
And did you see that in the future?
So I focused on that basically, so also relying on that globalization, further globalization. You often see like people going towards, oh, we have to do local, that's like kind of the future. I don't believe that. I think it should be a global, working together community with a lot of energy usage, but in a sustainable way.
One humanity in a sustainable way. Wow. Now, so I've now picked up several reflections of the future. I've gotten 1 or 2 bits of pieces back, like if you look back to today. How was that? So you had this picture of the best possible future. You looked back through 150 years, 170 years, 180 years back to today, and you saw what needed to change. And you also saw what you could change. Is anyone that wants to reflect on that? What did you see what really needs to change to get us there, to get us to this best possible future? Here, Ted?
Well, I tried to feel what my grandson, who was alone, felt in the future. And what came to me was that we need a very strong connection, maybe a friendship with the spirit of nature.
So if we want to get to this best possible future, we have to change the way we live with nature today. Is that the lesson that you saw by looking back?
Yeah, it's about connection with the spirit of nature, not nature as it is, grass and trees, but the spirit of nature. I think that's very important. That's what I felt.
So reconnecting with the spirit of nature. Thank you. I saw one hand there, and then I see,
Yeah, it's sort of coming back to what I said earlier, because I think there are a lot of materialistic things that need to change. And I mean, of course, plastic and all of that stuff, but it's mostly the mentality of humanity that needs to change, the consciousness about what's happening, what we need to do, and first how we live together, basically.
And that, if I recall you correctly or understand you correctly, it's also on an individual level. So you're not just looking at, the government needs to change.
It's really on an individual level, but also, indeed, coming back to what Alex said, that it's too heavy of a burden for an individual that we need the collectivity to actually carry the burden.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, here. Anyone else? Yeah, show your hands, please. Yeah.
I think when I was walking back to now, I saw struggle, but I also saw a lot of enlightenment. And like you said, people reflecting on themselves and how they needed to change. And I think I saw a lot of remembering what the past was like and how we should move forward. So heritage was very important as well, and keeping history intact. But I also saw a lot of education. And I think that's something that is incredibly important moving forward, that we teach the younger generations about how they can reconnect with nature. And yeah, I think education was incredibly integral in when I was moving forward that was something that was very important for coming to that best future.
Education as a power for the shift of change we need to see. Beautiful. And very much aware of heritage. I really like that terminology as well. Yes, there, yeah? And I saw another, oh yeah, sorry, here, yeah. Komt zo, yeah.
When I was walking back, I realized I was not the ancestor of only humans. I was also the ancestor of everything, of animals, and that was also something that came back to me when I was looking back. I was thinking, is my only heritage the humankind, the human spirit, or is there a lot of nature in there? So just bringing nature into the perspective of how I define myself as a good ancestor would be seeing myself as an ancestor for more than humankind and leave the human perspective there.
Well, I really like that. So replacing ourselves in the natural system. I sometimes give lectures on that, and please, while you move to that gentleman over there, do all of you know that you carry at least 1 kilo of not human life with you right now? So on your skin and in your intestines, you carry more than 1 kilo of non-human things. And not just carrying this, if you would lay them out, their cells are smaller than our cells. If you would count cells, you sitting there are less human than non-human. So you have more non-human cells in this body sitting here, so you're more non-human than human. So this is how critically connected we are to nature. Because the germs in our intestines actually don't, many of them don't digest our food. They make sure that our food becomes something that we can digest. So without them, we would be dead. And they would be dead without us. So at a very small level, we are critically connected to nature. Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I really like all the answers over here, because we need to change who we are in some sort of way. And also what I felt going back is how we think about the structures we have made for ourselves, like economics, politics, the money system. And I think that's something we really need to rethink for a better future.
And can this be in a harmonious way, or do we need a revolution? Does it just need to end at some point and become something new? Or do you have any vision on that, or anyone else?
Well, my son does, and he thinks we need to stop having money right away, because that's a terrible, evil thing, he thinks. He's 13, so. But what I saw in the eyes of my great-great-great-great-great-grandson was a lot of curiosity and hope. So I think it's a long-term process. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes?
I think the core issue here is that we are very selfish as humans, and therefore I think that because we always act in our own self-interest, maybe I'm very realist here, is that we should consider, make the society push the belief that our grandchildren and the grandchildren of our grandchildren are part of our own self and affect us directly. What you're also trying to do with this exercise is that we make it a public belief that by doing this we are harming ourselves. So therefore it's a motivation.
Okay, beautiful. So this is where we want to be and how we want to change. Did anyone see like a lesson on how we can actually change? So how we can make that change individually or in society? Has anybody has a vision on that? Yes?
We're now spoken to most of the times as a consumer, and if we can listen to the narrative as a human, as a person, then maybe we can change our economic view and so change our behavior.
Beautiful, beautiful. Here?
I saw two things. I saw more than two, but I'll focus on two. In the future, you asked us to meet a person. I actually saw Frodo from Lord of the Rings.
Precious.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's
Because Frodo has such beautiful open eyes, and I think eyes are the window to the soul. So I looked into Frodo's eyes, and I saw the purity of soul. And I actually know the child of one of my friends has same eyes like Frodo. And he actually admits that a lot of people say that to him. And when I went back to my current life, what I felt needed to change was the pace of life. So the pace in which we do things, the time we have to reflect, the fact that we are always busy wanting to catch up, and the time sort of accelerates and we have very little time to reflect. And therefore, if we have more peace in our lives, in the way we do things, we may also come to different actions.
Wow, almost a nice wrap-up conclusion. Yes, Roman? And then we're almost going to wrap up.
I wasn't going to speak until you mentioned Lord of the Rings, because I was thinking of the film Avatar, actually. And when I was looking into my descendants' eyes, it was the blue-skinned indigenous woman from Avatar. And but when I walked back, thinking about how we got to this world where we basically rewilded the planet, that was the vision. Not only did I see the crisis I mentioned before in the 2060s, but I also saw consistent acts of civil disobedience all the way through to that future. And I saw the descendants in the past nodding their heads, recognizing that that is how fundamental transformative change happens.
Wow, cool. Who of you who did the exercise now feels more connected to their ancestors than before they did this exercise? Yes, so do you feel more connected to your ancestors by doing this exercise? I see several hands. Who of you feels more connected to future generations by doing this exercise? Also, you're very shy, you can just be like, yeah, there you go, now I see more hands. Well, this is very, very good, obviously, so you can do this exercise. You can ask us to come and do it, but you can do this as well. There's a podcast on our website, on the Lab Toekomstige Generaties, which helps you through this exercise, and then you can put your most beautiful future on anything there, on where I am or where my children are, etc. Something that I took from Roman's book, which I want to share with you, and then I give the floor to Fons to wrap up the first session, and then it's Jan Terlouw to give the reflection of the day. But Roman actually says in his book as well, you need sometimes to be more of a deep time thinker. So where do we come from? And last year I bought something that's so awesome, and I carry it with me. I often carry it. This is a meteorite that is older than the Earth. So there's nothing on our planet you can touch that is older than this. So it was there when the sun came into being, and it crashed on the Earth about 1 million years ago. So that's pretty awesome. And I found, this is also, I worked with my father in Israel. I was brought up quite religious, so it was quite important for me to be in Israel. And I found this rock, and I always take rocks with me. I like crystals, I like rocks, and I took it with me. And back home, I thought, ooh, I might have stolen some cultural heritage. So it turns out to be a tool. And this is what they used between 3,000 and 10,000 years ago to clean leather or to use as a tool. And then they made iron tools. So this is as old as before Abraham and Isaac, the stories that I was told from the Bible. They walked around when this was already there. So that brings me into this humbleness of deep time. This humbleness that I also experienced, and that actually got me on the drive to the rights of nature. I was in front of a tree in Bristol Cove Canyon in America that is 5,000 years old. 5,000 years old. That tree was 2,000 years old when they started building the pyramids in Egypt. That tree was 3,000 years old when Jesus walked the land in what we now call Israel or Palestine. And I was stunned. And if we don't kill the tree, it will be there for lots of thousands years old. It will be there in the future. How can I claim ownership over such a tree? How can I just cut it down without taking along its rights? And the same, to me, goes also to the future. So if you can connect to the past and be aware of who we are and where we come from, we also take that into the future. So this is what the exercise was about. So thank you very much at the end of a day. And I now give the word to Fons to conclude this.